We live in hustle culture. Get after it. I will sleep when I die. The thing is that hustle culture causes stress in our lives. And stress, it actually underlines so many of the physical and emotional issues that so many of us deal with every day. On today's episode of the Live Faith First podcast, I meet with Tracie Braylock. She's a registered nurse. She's a holistic educator, and she brings so much breadth of knowledge to stress and ways that we can every single day bring relaxation into our lives so that we can have a healthier emotional, physical, and spiritual life. So sit down and enjoy this episode of the Live Faith First podcast. What if rest wasn't a weakness, but wisdom? In a world that praises hustle and overextension, slowing down can feel radical, maybe even rebellious. But today's guest, Tracie Braylock, invites us to consider something deeper, that rest is a sacred rhythm, a gift from God meant to restore our bodies, minds, and souls. Tracie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this conversation. Your book was so practical that I'm so looking forward to jumping in a bunch of some from food to sleep to meditation and all that stuff. Now, you wrote in your book that you had a home birth, which in and of itself is not particularly unusual, but it sounds like yours might have been a little more unplanned. So before we get to that, though, I want to get to that a little bit later today because I want to hear really what people thought about that, because it sounds like, your perception of it and others was a little bit different. But before we get to that, give us the cliff notes of your life. Where were you born? Where were you raised? How do you get to where you are today?
I am from Ohio. I'm born and raised in Ohio. I've moved from my hometown to the other side of the state. But I came here for school and I never left. And yes, where I met my husband. That's where we're raising our 4 children. And yeah, I started in the operating room right out of college.
Oh, wow.
And that was kind of one of my first acts of rebellion, because they always tell you, you can't go into surgery right out of school. And I said, well, I'm going to give it a try anyway. Yeah. So I started in the operating room, worked there for some years, got a second degree in nursing education. And along the way, I decided I wanted to use what I've already learned to focus on wellness, to use that educational component to teach people how to maybe avoid ever going to the operating room in the first place. So yeah, that's the summary of the work and how I got to this point. And I've been teaching for 20 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
And so you've trained yourself in a breadth of different kind of medical, I'm going to say perspectives. Maybe there's a better way to say that, but you go from holistic to obviously traditional Western medicine. What are some of the things that we do that kind of mess ourselves up? So let's kind of start on the negative. Like, what do we do? And maybe that list is way too long to go through today. So pick some highlights, right? What are the things that humans do that just, get us in the operating room?
Oh boy. Not addressing your stress, not realizing how significant it is and that it fuels most of the chronic conditions that we see, from heart disease, diabetes, the anxieties, depressions, digestive issues. It's the underlying river that's just flowing in the background of all of those things. And so, really looking at it and saying, okay, what can I do about this stress? Some things we can't do anything about. Some things we have to learn also how to just don't give that our time and attention, basically, and focus on the things that we can address. And I'd start with the basics. On your daily commute, is there a path that you're taking that just is worrisome for you, or it's stressful, people are speeding by or driving a little crazy? What are those basic things that you can do to kind of decrease the everyday stressors? And so start there. There are some things, that practical ways that we can just start to eliminate one by one the things that are driving us nuts, basically. And so that's where I would start. with the stressors. And I also tell people, don't stress about the stress. In me teaching
That's
this
good.
work, I don't want it to bring more stress when people are like, oh, well, I see stress everywhere in my life. I don't know where to begin, or this just feels
Right.
overwhelming. It doesn't have to be. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to
Yeah.
be. You just have to be self aware. You have to be willing to give it a try and to just work one step at a time
Yeah.
towards decreasing the stress. It can make a tremendous impact on your health and longevity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so
Yeah.
good. A few years ago, there's, as I leave my house, I can either
Mm-hmm.
go through a stoplight
Mm-hmm.
or a stop sign.
Yeah.
It's only one block apart. I
Yeah.
can either choose,
Right.
one or the
Yeah.
other. But when I'm at the stop sign,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm always frustrated with the car in front of me that's not
Right.
going when that car should be going, at least in my
Right.
mind. Like, come on, bro, man, you got to
Right.
go.
Move. Right.
And so at some point, I'm like, you know what? I'm doing the stoplight. Now,
Yeah.
the stoplight can cause me a certain because it's not an arrow, so I still got to
Yeah.
cross traffic.
Right.
But at
Right.
least I'm like,
Yeah.
it's giving me an opportunity to have a little less stress in my day.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly. And you acknowledge that and you did something about it.
right,
Yep.
right. And so pick them out after I don't know how many years of
Mm-hmm.
driving one route. I'm like, you know
Right.
what? There's probably a less stressful route, and you
Yep.
already deal with enough stress while you're driving.
Exactly.
Uh, what can you give
Mm-hmm.
us again, Cliff Notes, maybe of how could we physically see
Mm-hmm.
the effects of our internal stress? Because stress is
Mm-hmm.
something where, you don't look like you're stressing today. I'm assuming you have
Yeah.
a fully relaxed life, and yet there may be a lot going on behind the scenes. So,
Yeah.
what are some of the physical signs people can see that, like, oh my goodness, stress is starting to get the better of me now?
Right. Oh boy. Everything from sleep is really telling, Are you having restless nights? Are you waking up often throughout the night? Wake up even after you've slept for many hours, do you still feel tired? you know, Maybe your mind just really didn't shut off and it's just constantly working in the background. So
Yeah.
sleep is really telling. That
Hmm.
start there. Um, your skin tells you when you're stressed out, whether you're having changes in the texture. Sometimes people get like rashes or just,
Hmm.
the color of your skin can change. And so, do you notice redness in areas where you didn't before? Just like pay attention to you,
Yeah.
pay attention to what's going on with you in every way.
Yeah.
Hair, is your hair thinning in certain spots? Often, stress can cause those hair loss. And, people often talk about alopecia, and sometimes it's stress related. Yeah, your
Interesting.
hair is falling out because you're stressed.
Stressed.
And it just causes a cycle basically within your body. When the stress hormones begin to do all of their work, they don't really spend the time tending to your hair follicles. They're like, okay, we've got to work on this. This is more important. And so the hair is just not receiving the attention and the nutrients that it needs to
Yeah.
grow. And so it's like, really, when you break things down, there's always a reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason, but sometimes we again are stressing about a thing, and then another thing happens, and so you're stressed about it. You don't stop and think, hey,
Right.
what am I doing? How am I participating in this and causing this to happen? And so, yeah, every digestive issues, that's another one that's really telling and simple, that people can say, hey, I used to be able to eat these types of foods. Now that's not working for me anymore. That could be your body's way of telling you, there's stress present, or there's an allergy or something.
Yeah.
So, one thing I would really do is just practice self awareness. Notice what's happening with you. Sometimes you're just getting older, wiser, hopefully, and things do change along the way. But sometimes it's because something's off.
Yeah.
What we're eating, how we're sleeping, the things we're thinking about, something is off in the background, and that awareness can help you address it and hopefully heal and correct it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to sleep is one of the things I want us to talk about today because
Yeah.
I read one book and I like my
Hmm.
family still is like, would you stop talking about sleep? And that was like 6 years ago. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that conversation.
Right.
And one of the other things you mentioned was like
Hmm.
even your fingernails, like they'll
Mm.
become like, either
Yeah.
brittle
Brittle. Yep.
or
Weakened.
softer.
Hmm.
And it's like those
Yeah.
little things. And of
Right.
course, if it's actually getting to the tip of your fingernail, it's probably been
Hmm.
it had to grow a bit to get there.
Yeah.
So just the
Yeah.
stress has probably
Right.
been a little more long term, some of
Hmm.
those things.
Absolutely.
Now let's switch this a little bit
Hmm.
because your book is titled Radical Relaxation.
Hmm.
And I'm assuming that's not just like a longer Caribbean beach, island vacation, something like that. That this is
No.
actually things that
Yeah.
parents, people
Hmm.
working, students that we can all
Hmm.
integrate into our normal everyday life
Yes.
to help us deal with our stress. So, would you
Hmm.
tell us a little bit about radical relaxation? What is that? What
Sure.
does that look like a little bit before we get into some more details?
Absolutely. Yeah. Radical in healthcare is usually when people have something there that shouldn't be, whether it's a cancer, whether it's a growth of some sort, and it needs to be removed in totality. Okay. And so radical in the sense of let's remove the stress completely. Let's get to the root of it, remove it from our lives, and replace it with relaxation. And also, it's acknowledging that in today's world and culture, to just say, I'm going to relax or to, step away from the hustle is a radical act.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that. It can seem like a monumental task, and yet it's possible and it's necessary and it's helpful. So, yes, that's radical relaxation.
Okay. So,
Mm-hmm.
getting rid of the stresses, replacing it with habits that help
Mm-hmm.
us be
Yes.
refreshed,
Mm-hmm.
revive and so on. All right,
Absolutely.
let's dig. I'm going to talk about a few physical things first. So let's
Okay.
start. I'd like to talk about. I'm just going to start with food. We're going to add
Okay.
that because it's something we all,
Mm-hmm.
most people love,
Yeah.
and sometimes just have one of those love hate relationships, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
you're stressed out, it can lead you to eating. You talked about
Right.
the story about being tired at work, which caused you to go
Right.
to the break room and grab food,
Right.
like so, and
Mm-hmm.
all of these things. So
Yeah.
tell us how does food? I mean, I know this is
Mm-hmm.
kind of a basic question, but how do we navigate food? And because we
Yeah.
need it, it's something that's
Right.
important for our own health. So how do we navigate food in a kind of radical way?
I think food in its most natural forms, that's where we need to, to focus our attention. Um, we all, go for the quick and the easy. It's simply a part of the culture too.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so it's a practice of reaching for the apple. We used to say apple a day keeps the doctor away. And so it's a practice. I'm guilty of the same thing. Like, I have 4 children. How can I feed these humans as fast as possible, as
Right.
nutritiously as possible? And then there's moments where that's the easy thing for them to grab. And so being mindful of that, are those things that you don't want to keep in your home? Are they for like special occasions, or do you have
Mm-hmm.
parameters around it? Okay, one cookie after dinner. Just thinking about what you're doing, being mindful of it, and not just aimlessly choosing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But yes, fruits and vegetables always. I mean,
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
there. A
Yeah.
salad, vegetable soups, those types of things that are filling, but they also have a significant nutritional impact for you. I don't tell people to, just stay away from everything. I think that's impractical. And I think, we experience joy in eating our food and eating in community, having dinner with others, whatever the case may be. And so I don't ever tell people to eliminate everything, but be aware. Be aware of your portion size. Be aware of, the time of day you're consuming it. Um, because, like in the morning, if you're eating super sweet things, it's going to spike your blood sugar, and then you'll kind of struggle with that throughout the rest of the day. Yeah, and so just being aware of what you're putting in so that you can be productive, feel good.
Yeah.
Feeling good is important. And then again, those things that kind of help you transition to going to bed and actually feeling at ease and being able to rest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And a lot of that though takes planning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean,
Mhm.
you, again, in your case, 4 children,
Mhm.
fast food restaurants on the way home
Yeah. Yeah.
versus did I actually, do I have a plan
Right.
for what I'm going to make when I get home? Because if we're heading
Mhm.
home with no plan for what to eat, we're just going to open
Right.
the fridge and ask for,
Mhm.
pray for a miracle.
Right.
Not going to
Absolutely.
happen. Do you have any like planning tips, things that have worked for you? Just
Mhm.
people who are like, man, I'd love to do this, but every day at the way home from work, it turns
Right.
into, an
Yeah.
easy grab versus,
Absolutely.
prepping food at home.
Right. It's evolved over time. So whether you plan your afternoon snack, if like between lunch and dinner, you're going to need something. I usually do like an apple and some almonds or grapes, like some kind of fruit and some kind of protein
Yeah.
to kind of calm the system down. Like you're not starving, you're okay, and keep going. But yes, it does take a little bit of planning. And I think if you're aware of those groups of the combinations, that it's not as much of a struggle, meaning you can have a variety, maybe it's peanut butter, or maybe someone around you has a peanut allergy, so that's not the thing you want to do. Do you want a few ounces of chicken or tuna or something like that? Something that's going to calm the hunger, but yet isn't really, a large meal or something that's going to make you feel stuffed and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, planning is important. I generally some kind of protein in the morning as well. Nothing like the cereals or the for me, and I say for me because everybody's a little different. I really don't do like the oatmeals in the morning because an hour later I'm starving.
Yes.
It's a carb, and yeah, I just save those things for later in the day. And so being mindful of that. How do you want to start? How do you want to continue throughout your day? Making sure you're hydrated, you're drinking your water. I love a cup of coffee, but I try to drink my water first. Making sure that I'm consuming enough of that. Yeah, just planning if you have the time and you have the the ability to
Yeah.
cutting up those fruits and vegetables ahead of time, your celery, your carrots, your strawberries, whatever it is,
Right.
making sure that it's there and ready for you
Yes.
when you need it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to grab whatever's easiest. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
making sure it's available. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'm I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what I do. I would love your feedback if this. You're like, Elliot, there's a better way to do it, but because anyway, okay. So grapes, we'll grab a
Mm-hmm.
bag of grapes.
Yeah.
I will wash the grapes, trim them
Mm-hmm.
down into like just little bite size. So like
Yeah.
you're grabbing one little
Yeah.
thing will be three, four,
Mm-hmm.
5 grapes, and you can grab a whole course of a whole handful if you want.
Right.
But like if you go into our fridge, the
Mm-hmm.
first thing, well, I'm 6'2". My wife's 5 foot, and my daughter's
Mm-hmm.
5'3". So they may not be looking at it the same as
Yeah.
I do,
Yeah.
but there's fruit there. We got right now
Mm-hmm.
strawberries, grapes,
Yeah.
cherries, just ready to like just
Right.
grab as a snack.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's this one thing I'm going to ask.
Mm-hmm.
So I plan my meals in advance. So
Right.
like every Saturday I try to get up and kind of,
Mm-hmm.
or Friday morning, Saturday morning, and like
Right.
plan the week out. Do you
Mm-hmm.
have any strategies? And then I build my
Mm-hmm.
grocery list off of that and then
Right.
go grocery shopping, hopefully one day of the weekend. So
Mm-hmm.
do you have any strategies for meal planning? Like maybe dinners
Mm-hmm.
at least? Is there something that kind of helps to make sure that you're choosing healthy choices by the time you get to the end of the day?
Um, I it's been a struggle to get here, but I don't like to force the children to eat things that they don't like. Okay, there are plenty of options, plenty of fruits, plenty of vegetables, and of course you'll have one who likes a grape and one who doesn't, and all of that kind of stuff. And so, as far as meal planning is concerned, I really try to stick to the things that most people in my home enjoy.
Yes.
And lately, that has been like vegetable bowls. And so,
Okay.
whether that has like at the base some kind of noodle or rice, and then tons and tons of vegetables and a protein, whether it's shrimp or chicken, something like that.
Yeah.
they've been enjoying that lately. It's
Nice.
very easy. It's one of the things that I could really pack in is
Yeah.
a lot of nutrients for them.
Yeah.
So I kind of plan based on not just time, but their preference because as a mom, it's hard to stand there cooking and then 20 minutes later someone's still hungry or or they're not satisfied because they don't like it. So I still try to prepare based on what their preferences are.
Yeah.
I don't know if that works for everyone, but that's the route that I take. I hone in on the meals that, if I can get all six of us to enjoy something, then that's what we're
You're
making.
winning.
Yes.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I like a hot sauce. We love hot
Mhm.
sauce in the
Mhm.
family. And one of the things I like about a meal like that is I can put whatever hot sauce on there and
Right.
really whatever flavor I want. So if you want an
Exactly.
Asian kind of flavor, I can
Yeah.
put some teriyaki sauce, some
Mhm.
sriracha, something like that. I'm going to start
Yeah.
drooling here in a second. I'm talking about food, but if you want more of a
Yeah.
Hispanic, thing, you can
Right.
put some, different pico
Mhm.
pica, different kind of sauces
Absolutely.
on there,
Yeah.
some cilantro, some other
Right.
things, right, to kind of change it up.
Yeah.
And even in that, you're allowing for your family to choose, like,
Mhm.
oh, I don't feel like Asian tonight. I feel
Right.
like
Right.
Mexican food or
Exactly.
whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
And I love that you're packing a bowl full of veggies. That's
Yeah.
something I've really, really tried to do because it is filling,
Yeah.
but
Right.
also that you're getting a lot of good
Mhm.
nutrients out of it, right? You're
Right.
getting a lot of the things your body needs. So,
Exactly.
okay, let's move on to sleep. I want to talk
Mhm.
about sleep a little bit, the power of sleep.
Yes.
Can you just give us a quick primer on, like, we all know we need sleep,
Mhm.
but like
Yes.
when we sleep, what is our
Mhm.
body doing? Why is that
Mm.
so beneficial for our health?
Right. When we go to sleep and when we can get into a deep sleep, our body is resetting. Think of it like you had a dinner party and now you're clearing the table. You're washing the dishes, you're cleaning up everything. So that's you're giving your body time to reset, to heal, to get rid of the toxins, the things that shouldn't be in there. And so when you're not sleeping enough or, you continuously waking, your body just doesn't have the time to do it. It might get to one little corner of your system, but it doesn't get the full overhaul. And so sleep is vital and not just the length of time, but the quality of it.
Yes.
Is your room temperature okay? What are you sleeping in, like your bed sheets or the clothing you're wearing? Those things matter and they contribute to how well you sleep. And another thing right now, women are really talking a lot about perimenopause and menopause. And so, you know, things are going to change along the way. And it's okay to have to adjust. It's okay to figure out what those things are that work for you. So many people are using like sound machines, nature sounds like waterfalls and background noise to help you stay asleep
Yes.
and sleep well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife is a huge proponent of the Calm app. It's funny.
Yep.
So we're also Aura Ring wearers. So
Yeah.
we do the track our sleep and our exercise here.
Right.
And so almost every morning we wake up and like, okay, who's got the better? So my wife is killing me right now on the sleep score. I'll tell you, she had like a 90 something last night, and I'm like
Oh
hoping to get
boy.
up to a 75.
Right.
And for all of you who are not Aura nerds, I'm
Mhm.
sorry for that right there. But if you're an Aura nerd, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, but she put on the Calm app as she went to bed
Yeah.
last night. And
Yeah.
she's like, and like the difference between
Mm-hmm.
her sleep on Monday night versus
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday night
Oh,
was stark just
mm-hmm.
because of kind of I don't know what
Mm.
sounds or stories she was
Right.
listening to, but
Yeah.
it just helped put her in that
Make a
place.
difference.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so one of the things that I love about
Mm-hmm.
sleep and that piece of it is that it is also something you can do in the middle of the day. I'm a big fan of naps. I'm
Yes.
sorry. I hope my boss isn't listening. Uh, but just a quick. I mean,
Right.
I take a 27-minute nap, and
Okay.
it's because I don't. If I get past that 35-minute, I'm
Yeah.
groggy,
Right.
and if I'm less than that 25-ish, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel sufficient.
Okay.
But it's also interesting where you'll wake up
Mm-hmm.
and you you do feel refreshed. You do feel revived. And
Absolutely.
sometimes I won't actually fall asleep, but even just
Just pausing. Yeah.
pausing, letting your body
Mm-hmm.
rest, hopefully being able to slow your mind down a little bit,
Right.
just helps kind of get you actually more productive
Yeah.
for the rest of the day.
I agree. I
Um,
enjoy a nap. It's like hitting the reset button. It really makes a difference, and then you can just focus and continue on. Yeah.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. You just get after it again. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, if every time you take a nap you're waking up groggy,
Right.
your nap, that's
It's
not a
too
good
long. Right.
midweek nap. It's a little bit too long.
Yeah.
Now there are days where I'm like, I'm just going to sleep as long as I sleep, but that's usually
Right.
safe for Saturday or Sunday, right?
Right.
So that is not midweek. But
Yeah.
yeah, one of the things that I remember just really being amazed about
Mm-hmm.
around sleep was the fact that, I mean, it helps reduce everything from diabetes to
Mm-hmm.
cancer to emotional, mental health challenges,
Right.
because, like you say, it's cleaning your body's like
Mm-hmm.
getting a refresh. So
Right.
it's not just this, oh, I'm being like, I have to be more aware for the day. I get
Right.
enough sleep, but like internally, your
Mm-hmm.
body it's doing a
Right.
full reset. And if we go a long time without letting our body get that reset,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't get it anywhere else.
Right.
Right? It's not
Mm-mm.
getting that
It's
anywhere
just
else. So,
gone. Yeah.
um, and again,
And just
I'm
think
playing.
about children, think about infants and toddlers. When they need a nap, they need a nap. And we tend to like make time in our day, arrange things so that they can do that because they're nicer and they seem to function better when they have it. And so somewhere along the way, we forget those things and we start
Yeah,
eliminating them.
yeah,
But incorporating them is probably the best way to go. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Our preschoolers, our kindergartners, they're
Yeah.
still getting naps, but there's no nappy time in first grade. Once you
Right.
get to first
Yeah.
grade, you got to make your way through. So,
Yeah.
all right, quick break in the action here. I'm excited to announce that Faith First is launching a whole site built around good news stories with articles from writers all around the US, short videos of everyday faith in action, and our weekly good news feed with happy stories from all over the place. Every Friday, we're dropping new content to get you encouraged and help us all put our faith first. Hey, if you think you'd be interested, click on the link in the description to sign up for our weekly newsletter. We would really appreciate it. And of course, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. All right, everybody, let's all live faith first. Again, we're still talking about stress reduction,
Mm-hmm.
healthy ways of living, radical relaxation, but I'd like to talk about exercise, moving.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, we're talking about physical pieces here.
Yeah.
How does just getting out of the house, walking
Mm-hmm.
around, getting on a treadmill, we're not running
Mm-hmm.
marathons, we're just
Right.
moving our body. What does
Right.
that do for our relaxation, stress reduction, and so on?
Oh, moving is so important. And moving for the sake of moving, not necessarily to punish yourself for something that you've eaten or, you don't like what you see when you walk past the mirror. Moving just daily is so important. It helps those hormones to flush out, whatever that stress that was there can just go away with simple movements. Also, it helps you to sleep better. It helps those calming hormones to come in and join the party. And it just also, it's like an extension of the sleep. Like it helps to fuel the body and it helps to calm the body. And it's just so beneficial. I think in the past few years, research has shown that being sedentary is equally as bad, if not worse, than smoking. So, the constant sitting and, we with the computers that we have or, just sitting and not moving our bodies as much is very detrimental. And so, yeah, I try to get up first thing in the morning, go for a walk before the day really begins so that I know that I have moved, I don't have to feel guilty or wonder, how
Yeah,
can I fit this in along the way?
yeah.
But yes, moving is so important. Stretch. I don't know. It seems like somewhere along the way too, people don't stretch as much like as when you're a child or when you're a child or you just stretch and play and move all day long, but we
Right.
don't even stretch. We don't we don't take those, moments to extend our muscles and how beneficial that can be as well because every time we move them,
Yeah.
there's some more feel good hormones. We might not get like a super big burst, but they're
Yeah.
happening. They're doing their job in the background. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That's good.
important.
Yeah. So for
Hmm.
people who maybe can't get out of their house
Yeah.
or, get out of the office or
Hmm.
whatever, have mobility challenges that,
Yeah.
yeah, just moving your muscles,
Hmm.
like you say, stretching and so on.
Yeah.
I just, so, well, we now have two dogs. We
Hmm.
just picked up a puppy a few weeks ago.
Oh
So,
boy.
puppies, actually, we're pretty amazed at how this is a very well behaved puppy. I
Oh,
don't know
good.
if it'll last, but so far
Right.
so good, right? But our older dog, like
Hmm.
she will come up to me in the middle of the day. In
Hmm.
fact, like if she were in the house right now, if she heard our call, we're not ending
Yeah.
right now, but if we were
Right.
calling this to an end,
Right.
she would start just kind of circling around the desk, like waiting for the walk is what she's
Right.
doing, which is great for me because
Right.
it's like I'm getting pressured by the dog to like,
Yeah.
okay, you got to get out of the house right now.
Yeah.
So find those things
Yeah.
too. Maybe there's
Right.
something that time of day, or maybe it's when,
Hmm.
the mail carrier comes by, like,
Right.
okay, that's my, whatever it
Yeah.
is that you can like put in your brain, like, oh, that's happening.
Exactly.
Now it's time to go move my
Right.
body. So,
Yep.
all right, going to continue on here because I love what you wrote about
Hmm.
finding the right doctor or the right
Hmm.
medical team. I'm kind of
Yes.
switching gears on you a little bit because I've never heard
Hmm.
like that written out the way you did. For me in
Hmm.
our medical system, it's like, you
Hmm.
get what you get and you don't throw a fit. Like this is
Yeah.
your doctor. So
Right.
and go
Right.
enjoy. But
Yeah.
you kind of gave a whole different paradigm. Would you talk
Hmm.
like if somebody's looking for a doctor, like
Sure.
where do they start and what does that look like or what questions can they ask?
Absolutely. If you have insurance, you should shop and interview your care providers. Even if you don't, there's still some wiggle room and you can do some research. You need to know who's caring for you. This is a partnership. This is somebody who is on your team. You should take their advice, but also you are a participant. They should hear your side of the story. And so, yes, take the time to interview, ask questions, look at reviews online. Are there other patients of theirs who you can speak with about their care? How much time do they spend with you in the office? All of these things really matter. Are
Yeah.
they hearing you, or is it just like, oh, you're here again, great. All right, good to see you. We'll see you next time. It
Right.
all of those things matter.
Yeah.
And to believe that that's it, that is the standard is not accurate. But if you haven't searched, if you don't know
Mm.
that you can go and look for another care provider, some people stay stuck there,
Yeah.
but you have the ability to choose your practitioner, to work with people who you feel comfortable with, who you feel like are listening to you. And you should never feel like it's a struggle, like
Mm.
I don't feel understood or I don't feel like they care. If you're in that type of situation, you should be seeking other care providers.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Go find somebody else. That's
Mhm.
great. That was my my doctor's fine. I don't
Yeah.
have any massive complaints. But a blood test result came back about a year
Mhm.
ago. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, okay, well, you know,
Mhm.
what resources can you give me? Kind of thing like, well, what do
Right.
you have for me? And she just
Mhm.
returned me back with a PDF, like, okay, here's a PDF on what to do.
Mhm.
And, and that was where I was like, okay, I'm just not, for me, I'm not heading down that path anymore. Like
Yeah.
I feel like that means I don't know if I'm not bothering her. On the other hand,
Mhm.
like whatever, I don't know what's going on. I can't
Mhm.
imagine that. But then it sent me down a path to like just be my own advocate for
Mhm.
myself, do the research
Right.
that I needed to do to find out what I needed. And it would
Right.
have been nice for my doctor to say, hey, let's get video chat, come into the office, whatever it
Yeah.
is. So we can talk about this a little more. I want to make sure you're
Yeah.
comfortable with where you're at and you have a path forward for the ways you
Yeah.
can help resolve this, this result.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, but that's
I think it's they're also caught between a rock and a hard place.
yes.
The system is not necessarily on their side either. Sometimes it's a timing issue. Sometimes, we as healthcare providers also need communication training. We need, personal relationship training. We need to understand how to communicate with others and display that compassion, you know. Sometimes it's a time management issue. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, but again, that's why it is important to say, hey, can we talk about this? Or is this, the standard of how you do it? You just hand over this piece of paper?
Right.
Because, sometimes people think, I mean, think about, how many phone calls we make versus text messages these days. So sometimes there's this like perception, maybe it's easier, or maybe the patient just wants me to hand over this paper
Right.
versus having the conversation. And so, yeah, that it's something that we both sides, as a patient and a care provider, that you have to advocate for yourself, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and if I had followed up with a, hey, can we get on a call? She absolutely
Mm-hmm.
would have gotten on a call with me.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is that I was hoping for a different answer than she gave me. And it
Yeah.
was stuff that, yeah, you need to eat better. You need to lose some weight. You
Mm-hmm.
need to this, that, or the other. I go, okay, I've been down that path.
Yeah.
Okay. I will just get back on that path again, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
so I'm looking forward to my next blood test, actually, because of the
Yeah.
work that I've been doing over the last 10
Right.
months. So I'm coming up on that one. So we'll
Yeah.
see what the results
Yeah.
look around this time. And you're right. It is challenging. It's nuanced. I mean, as
Mhm.
far as there's so much going on behind the scenes on both sides, patient
Yeah.
side and doctor side.
Yeah.
Um, and I think so much today is how learning
Mhm.
how to appropriately advocate for ourselves, right? To
Mhm.
come in and like
Yeah.
you did a really brilliant job in your book of just saying like if you're feeling something,
Mhm.
you need to be communicating that. Like if your
Yeah.
body's telling you something, even though a doctor might be saying, no, 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 that's normal.
Yeah.
You're like, man, I've been walking in this body for a lot of years.
Right.
This isn't
Exactly.
normal. Can we do a little more? What would be a
Right.
next step? And not always taking the first answer
Right. Exactly.
as the last answer.
That's
So
absolutely right.
all right, I'm going to move to some other cool stuff. You talked about art therapy, music
Mhm.
therapy, gardening, all ways to help reduce stress.
Yeah.
Talk about some, or maybe there's one of those that
Mhm.
is a favorite for you and you're like, hey, do you want to talk about today? But yeah, talk about some of those kind of different ways we can incorporate
Sure.
habits or, yeah, into those types of habits into our life.
Right. Well, I believe that we should be relaxing every single day. Relaxing is a muscle, like a muscle that you can just strengthen. And so the more you do it, the more you will react in a relaxed way versus a stressful way. And so, in addition to my daily walk, I listen to music every day, and the music I listen to is usually something nature related. It's like an instrumental of, whether it's the waterfall, the ocean waves, something that's calming, because all things nature have that effect on you. They can naturally calm you down. And so, whether it's, walking outside, just standing outside, listening to sounds of nature, birds, even birds, like whatever your thing is, that can help you calm down, do that. I also use aromatherapy, and everybody's favorite scent is different. I enjoy lavender, so at some point throughout the day, I'll turn on diffusers around the house, and it's just like an instant trigger that says,
Hmm.
hey, calm down. Everything's good. You've got this. Keep going. Writing, I write every day. Sometimes we call it journaling, but every day, just write it down. Sometimes your mind is just going. You have this endless to do list. Write it down, get it out of your mind, put it somewhere. You can come back to it later if you need to. But writing is very helpful.
Hmm.
But yeah, those are my practices. But I tell people to do as many things as you need to do to relax or to relieve your stress. So if you need a whole list of 20 different things that day, do it. Do
Yeah.
whatever your schedule will allow you to do,
Yeah.
because it is helpful. It's beneficial to you. Meditation, I find sometimes people hesitate with that because they're like, oh, that means I have to sit. That means how do I get my mind to calm down? Everything is a practice. Just start somewhere, give yourself some grace, and do the things that you enjoy. I also have like a coloring book, and or some now they have adult coloring books and color
Yes.
pencils, whatever it is that works for you, do it. Do all of it. Do it often
Yeah.
because it is helpful, it is healing. Yeah.
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 My wife loves the adult coloring books.
Hmm.
It cracks me up. I mean,
Yep.
there's a stack this thick, and yes, I mean
Yep.
pencils and crayons
Yep.
and markers and all of that. And that doesn't calm me down. It actually
Yeah.
stresses me out. I'm sorry. Like it's because I have to be so detailed and I want to
Yeah.
stay in the lines. And I was never a good colorer. Like
Yeah.
in elementary school,
Right.
I look at other people's coloring and it's like brilliant.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I think I must have just been, I don't know.
Oh
Anyway.
no.
So,
Yeah.
but it calms my wife.
Yeah.
She loves doing the coloring.
Yeah.
Um, I'd like to talk a little bit more about
Hmm.
meditation. So,
Sure.
just talk. So, let's start with we have Eastern meditation, and then we're
Hmm.
just going to call Christian meditation.
Hmm.
Could you break those down a little bit for those that follow Jesus? Why is it that our meditation maybe a little different than some
Yeah.
other religious traditions?
I will put it like this. We, as Christians, do not attempt to necessarily empty our mind. We are actually focusing on the word. We are focusing on truth, and we allow that to be the thing that we are resting upon, that we are reiterating. It's a bit, in my opinion, easier to know that you have something to center on, a truth to, repeat over and over again versus trying to extract every thought that's flowing through your mind. That's a bit more challenging. But yes, as believers, Christian believers, we know that we are told to meditate on the word day and night.
Mm-hmm.
And as we do that, um, there's healing that comes with that as well. You can restructure your brain, and I mean the physical structure of your brain, not just your thoughts that you're having. Your brain structure changes when you follow these instructions. And so it is important to, I have to be careful because as a holistic nurse, everybody's definition of holistic is not the same. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm glad you asked me this, and I get a chance to say, as a Christian, the way I meditate may look differently. That means I might not be able to go to everybody's meditation class. They might not be teaching the same principles of what I believe, and that's okay.
Right.
But it's having that awareness. It's I think sometimes people struggle when they are doing things that the culture is telling them to do, and they're wondering why it's not working. And it's like, oh well, whose principles are you following? It really makes a difference. It makes a
Yes.
difference what you're listening to and how you're practicing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you. That's so good. I appreciate
Mm-hmm.
that. When you're maybe dealing with
Mm-hmm.
stress or dealing with situations, do you
Mm-hmm.
find when you go into meditation that you kind of have a set of thoughts that you start with, or is it situational? In other words, you're stressed about your kid doing something, right? So you're like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
God, you are the protector of my child, and I'm going to focus on God as the protector. Or
Mm-hmm.
is there some that you're just like, no, my practice is I kind of have a set like meditation, what it looks like. So I'm just curious, how does it change based upon the day, or maybe it doesn't change at all?
Um, my meditation is coupled with my writing. So every day when I sit down at the end of the day, that's usually when everybody else has gone to bed, and it's my last hurrah. And I listen. I start by listening. And then I usually write what I hear, whatever that is. And often, sometimes it's a summary of the happenings of the day. Sometimes it is more about maybe what the world kind of needs to hear,
Hmm.
how we can again focus on God, and there's a lot happening in the world today, and no matter what you believe or who you have to sit next to tomorrow when you go to work, what really matters, what's actually healing, what makes a difference in a positive way. So I really go with those intentions into my meditation. Yeah, and from a space of grace, a space of
Yeah.
grace and a space of I know I cannot do any of this alone. So how can I kind of calm myself and welcome others into that space as
Yeah.
well?
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. All right, one more question on this rabbit
Okay.
hole. I want to talk about grace with you for just a second. When you say grace,
Mm-hmm.
is it grace with yourself? Is it grace with
Mm,
others? All the
both.
above?
All of the
Yeah,
above.
yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right.
And I've,
I love
over
that.
time it's evolved because you mentioned, that thing with your children. I've come a long way in my parenting and just recognizing these are humans with, I think sometimes as parents you feel like your child has an agenda of their own, but I kind of tend to look at it like they're here on their own mission. They have a mission as well. And
Yeah,
so it's a matter of getting to know them, and what they're being led to do. And sometimes it doesn't look like anything you imagined, but that's okay.
yeah,
They're here to blaze their own trail. And so what does I sometimes like, what do I know? I have the opportunity to journey alongside you and to witness it, but at the same time, I really like to leave some space to let them hear also their direction
yeah,
as they
yeah,
move forward. Yeah,
yeah. I love that. I affirm that.
yeah,
I think I agree with that. I think as parents, one of our roles is, and just what are the ages of your children, just
oh
so we
boy.
kind of
14 through 7.
okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so the 7 is a little different than 14
yeah.
because 7 still needs more
Yeah.
of the directing, right?
Right,
But
right.
as they get to that,
Absolutely.
our daughter's 20, our youngest is
Mm-hmm.
20, our oldest is 43,
Yeah,
and so the 43-year-old, that it's kind of funny. That's really clear.
yeah.
Like, you're doing your own thing. We got
Yeah.
that. But the
Mm-hmm.
20-year-old, she's in that transition stage,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was somewhere in high school. It's like, you know what? We're moving from, I'm going to say disciplinarian, and that
Mm-hmm.
overstates it, but that kind of like, I'm going to need to direct you to,
Right.
I'm going to move to more of a mentorship role.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in
Yeah.
your life. I see who you are. I see what
Mm-hmm.
God's doing,
Right.
but I need to come alongside you. I need to come
Yeah.
alongside you and encourage you and let you
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah.
figure a thing out. And
Yeah.
um, that's one of the joys when, a child makes a decision where you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I think that was a good decision, and it's one of the, and on the other side, it's not that it
Yeah.
tears me down when they make other
Right.
decisions, but those
Yeah.
ones are the ones that like, oh, that's good. All right.
Yeah.
We put something good in there.
Right. Right.
Oh man. Um, all right. I love that. Let's move on to, I got a couple more things here.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you know what? Let's go back. Let's talk about, you had an in-home
Mm-hmm.
birth
Yes.
that it sounds like it wasn't exactly planned to be that
Nope.
way. And then you kind of respond, like, you're at the end of it, you were one way and had a picture of it
Mm-hmm.
one way and others didn't. So
Right.
walk us through that a little bit.
Yes. Um, Baby number 4. Um, they're like, you count your contractions, when they're this far apart, that's when you should go, all of that. Okay. Well, this one just had her own agenda. The contractions were never consistent. What, I was just like, oh, well, they're not in any kind of pattern yet, so we might as well wait,
Yeah.
it's okay. Well, little did I know there was never going to be a pattern. It was time. And so my husband went and took the older children and put them in the van. And by the time he came back, I said, I'm not going. We're not going to make it. Like I just knew at that point, like she's coming out of here.
Yeah.
So he was very calm. He did very well. Called 911 and they kind of assisted him along the way. But yeah, she was born right there at home. All of
Wow.
my
No
labors really,
midwife,
no,
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 you're
no.
just, you've, okay. You'd been through it
Yep.
3 times. You're a nurse. You got this figured out.
Yes,
I love it.
just my husband and child. And so I look at it, I can understand that those who have not had the experiences that I've had, because again, I worked in the operating room. I've spent plenty of time in labor and delivery. It was like, many semesters of labor and delivery. And I can understand that others' perspective might be a little bit more hesitant. But
Yeah.
I I was proud, I was like, I did that. Like and I think from the standpoint of we often follow protocol because, well, the hospital, these are the guidelines, this is what you do. And for the first time, I didn't have a protocol, and it was my realization that, wow, I am as powerful as I thought I was. But I needed this experience to kind of validate that for me. And it made me realize, I was making that decision more so based on the comfort of others.
Mhm.
I the thought of having that conversation with my husband of like, hey, we should have a home birth. He probably would have said absolutely not. And so and so, just making other people comfortable, what are they willing to do with me? And so
Yeah.
I realized, hey, I am strong. I am capable without the rules, the regulations,
Mhm.
and on the back end, others, they mentioned, oh, we're so glad nothing happened. Oh, weren't you so afraid? And I, no, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid. And I never even considered a complication, And that's one thing that I really hope along my journey, that I get to help other people realize how strong and how powerful they are, how wonderful their bodies are, how wise their bodies are, how capable you are of making autonomous decisions, things that, the culture doesn't necessarily recommend, but your body is wise. It's here to guide you through. Now, don't get me wrong, people have complications every day. There are challenges. I'm very thankful that nothing went wrong. But
Sure.
at the same time, I don't want that to be our reaction,
Yeah.
the expectation that something is going to go wrong,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
there's going to be a complication.
Yeah.
To just get as much information as you can and make a wise, informed decision that's best for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. That is so good. And I guess what I hear rattling around in the back of my head is that
Mhm.
sometimes fear gets the better of us.
Yeah.
Fear,
Absolutely.
the fear of the what ifs, the
Yeah.
fear of what will they think of me if I do or don't.
Right. Mhm.
And when we can learn to tame that voice to
Right.
say, either I've been here, I've done this,
Mhm.
or I haven't, but
Right.
I can, or whatever, or I got to
Mhm.
trust that it.
Yeah.
And when we put ourselves in that place, because I agree with you, humans are extremely resilient. I mean,
Mhm.
we find a way to come back from
Absolutely.
tremendous
Mhm.
tragedies
Yeah.
and challenges and
Right.
everything. And when we set ourselves down this kind of, I'll call it a negative mental
Mhm.
mindset,
Right.
um, it can lock us up. It
Yeah.
can lock us up, and
Absolutely.
that's not. It's not the life God has for us. He doesn't
Mm-mm.
have us in a locked up life.
Right. He really
He
doesn't.
actually wants thriving and growth and
Yeah.
realization that I am strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And God, I can appreciate what you did in my body,
Right.
and I can appreciate how
Mhm.
you preserved and didn't
Right.
give. And there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot there. So, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. Um, okay, I want to talk about
Mhm.
relationships for a
Okay.
second here, because that's kind of where you closed up the book,
Mhm.
around how
Yeah.
important relationships are for
Right.
stress. Now,
Mhm.
thankfully, it's not Thanksgiving and Christmas season, so we don't have to think about the stresses of holiday parties.
Yes.
But tell us the benefits of
Mhm.
healthy relationships and how that helps our stress reduction.
Sure. We are not meant to carry stress alone. It's one thing to lean on God, but who is surrounding you? We're here to help each other navigate this journey. And so, who's your community? If you don't have one, let's start working on that. Who are the people you can trust, you can call on? Um, and I think sometimes that's a struggle. I know for me, I'm an only child. And so, I'm just kind of used to being independent, so it took me a while to get comfortable with saying, hey, can you help me with this? Or, join me in this. But it's possible. If I can learn it, you can learn it.
Yes.
It's possible, and you need community. You need other people
Yeah.
who, whether they're just listening to you, listening to your side of the story, people who can give you wise counsel. It is so important
Yeah.
to not just be like in a silo on your life's journey. You need support. The same way I talk about a healthcare team and building that team, you need a everyday life team. Who can you call on for a meal if your whole family's sick? We had that happen before. We all went down. And so who do you call? How do you get help? You
Yeah.
need to really build yourself a system and a community of people who you can rely on, who you can trust, who you feel loved by and on, and those who, don't necessarily ask questions. They just show up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I love
important.
that. I love that. Yeah, my daughter and I went to a concert this last week, and she said, "This is one of the few places I go where I
Mm-hmm.
feel comfortable."
Mm, yeah,
And
that's
it
powerful.
was really cool because you're at a,
Mm-hmm.
we're at a big, not a big stadium, we're at a big
Mm-hmm.
arena. There's, I
Yeah.
don't know how many people, 12,000, 15,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting so she took off and did her own thing. And so I'm just
Mm-hmm.
kind of sitting out, people watching and, and just kind of enjoying the place. And, literally there were 10 times I looked up and
Mm-hmm.
maybe I didn't have my glasses on. So people were blurry. I'm like, oh, is that? No,
Oh.
that's not my daughter, but that hair color or those
Yeah.
shoes or that outfit, like, and
Right.
it was funny because it looked like the
Yeah.
her. It just looked
Mm-hmm.
like those were her
Yeah.
people. And
Mm-hmm.
did she build any strong bonds there? No,
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't the point of a concert.
Right.
That's not what the point
Right.
of a concert is. And you're talking about strong bonds. So that's something a little
Yeah.
bit different. But it's also that place where,
Yeah.
we can feel comfortable in our skin, that we feel okay
Absolutely.
to be ourselves
Yep. That's
and to
so
be
important.
vulnerable. Not, again, this is not at the concert, but this is being a
Right.
closer relationship. And I'm more and more convinced that the
Mm-hmm.
church
Mm-hmm.
is one of the few places left in our
Mm-hmm.
society where you can actually build relationship that turns into family.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen at, again, a concert. We'll pick on that
Yeah.
one, or a sports game, or some big gathering. I mean, it's great to go to gatherings, but
Right.
that's not
Right.
where relationship is built. But in
Mm-hmm.
the church, with the power of the Holy Spirit
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of like-mindedness,
Yeah.
there comes this people who all of a sudden, like, no, you're my family now. Like,
Right.
we're not
Right.
just, I mean, we're always brothers and sisters in Christ, but
Yeah.
the bond gets deeper, right? And
Right.
how important that is for all
Yeah.
kinds of areas. Um,
Absolutely.
all right, this is my last question for you.
Okay.
What is exciting you right now? What's one thing in your life? Maybe your family, maybe a Bible
Mm-hmm.
verse, something you wrote about last night. I don't know, but something that when you think about it, just charges you up. What's exciting you right now?
Oh, wait, that's a big one. Um, Summertime is always fun. I really enjoy the time that I get to spend with my children. I know some people are like, oh, when does school start again? When do they get to go back? I'm the opposite. I
Mhm.
love that they're out. I love that we get to hang out. We watch a lot of movies, just spend time together. That's so important to me. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm trying to I batch my work, how can I get as much done in as little time as possible so that I can just hang out with them as well and enjoy this time. And I try not to look at it like, oh, the clock's winding down, they're getting older, it won't happen. Because, you're still family. You'll still spend time together. But I really try to maximize our summers together.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I dropped my wife off at work last week, and our daughter's break is 4 months, which
Hmm.
is a long time. I mean, 8 months in
Yeah.
school, 4 months at home. And
Right.
we got to the 2 month part, and there was a
Hmm.
part of us, we looked, we're like, we're feeling sad because
Yeah.
we're already halfway through the summer
Yeah.
already. Like, oh my
Right.
goodness.
Yeah.
Because we enjoy
Yeah.
hanging out. And I mean, we love her being gone at college too. So it's
Yeah.
not that we don't like that. We
It's
like
equal.
our
Yeah.
empty nest, but also just, yeah, I love that. I think
Yeah.
that's such a great attitude. And yeah, they're our family, man. And
Yeah.
it is going quick. So take advantage
Yeah.
of it while you got it.
It does.
So,
It does.
um, Tracie,
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time today.
Thank
Everybody, you know
you.
what? Go grab the book, Radical Relaxation. It's so practical. It'll give you so many tips. And I haven't seen a book that goes through all of the things you do in one book. Like you can find a book on how to eat or how to exercise or how to do meditation, but
Mhm.
you've done a great job of giving people tools they can grab onto. So thank you for your book, what you wrote there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right, everybody, let's go live faith first. Hey, you're still here. That means you enjoyed the conversation with Tracie. Wasn't that fun? We got to talk about so many different subjects that really help us grow in our lives, our spiritual lives, our emotional lives, help reduce stress. And there's so many ways that we can go about it. So here's what I'd like for you to do. Write down in the comments, what's one thing? Don't pick 50. If you pick 50, you won't do any of them. But if you pick one thing, what's one maybe food choice you're going to make, or one more movement you're going to get out and you're going to go for a walk, or maybe you're going to go for a hike. But what's one thing you can do today to help reduce your stress? All right, everybody, let's go live faith first.